share with Dr. Salvador Espinosa. I got called in another meeting, so I'm gonna step out to that one. But Salvador will share an update on what we've done, the number of faculty we have, and the new updates that we have for the STEM building and student housing on our campus, and the current effort to recruit 5 new faculty this academic year. So welcome you all to Imperial Valley. You're in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Good afternoon, everyone. I always appreciate the opportunity to address the Senate. This time, I would like to give you some updates about what's going on in SDSU Imperial Valley, but also to share with you the news about our growth and, very importantly, the population that we serve, which I think is something that we always need to keep in mind. So, as SDSU Imperial Valley, we offer 12 bachelor's degrees, 3 master's degrees, and 4 teacher credential programs. But the question is to whom? The most important question is now that President Nola Butler-Byrd mentioned Women's History Month, then approximately 70% of our students are female. Approximately 90% are part of an underrepresented minority, which is telling us something significant about our student body. And the vast majority of them, I would say like around 75–80% are Pell eligible, which also indicates something about the socioeconomic status of the students who come to our campus. Now, something that is very important as we engage, when we engage with them, is that as they tell us, 66% approximately of our students are the first in their families to graduate from a 4-year university. So SDSU Imperial Valley campus is really a game changer in Imperial County. And the question is, how can we improve access to those underrepresented minorities to higher education? Right now, we're doing it with our majors. The largest majors that we have are psychology, criminal justice, and liberal studies. But we're in the process of opening new majors in the STEM disciplines that are gonna attract more students to careers that are in high demand. And a lot of our students, after they graduate, they choose to stay in the Valley. So this is an opportunity to really develop opportunities for people who are gonna stay in this county. What's going on in terms of our growth in Imperial Valley? This is the second year where we have record growth in our enrollment. At this point, in the last census, the campus had 1,236 students enrolled, which is a number that has increased significantly after the pandemic in 2020. The important thing here is that one of our largest growth is in 4-year degrees. So we have a growing number of freshman students that have different requirements, different demands for courses compared to the transfer students that were traditionally the population that we were serving in this campus. How are we gonna meet that demand? Then that is really inviting us to rethink how we offer the classes, which courses are offered, develop our general education offerings, but also very important, how are we gonna plan for the new developments that are gonna be happening in the next 2 years. The first development is we're scheduled to open the new STEM facility in Brawley in July of 2025, so it's coming, and we're receiving our first students the year after that. So our team is already engaged in the community recruiting students for our new degrees in chemistry, electrical engineering, a 4-year degree in mathematics, and our new program in public health with an emphasis in environmental health. And the most important thing here is the investment in our faculty. Right now, we have 24 tenure and tenure track faculty in SDSU Imperial Valley, but we're hiring more. The majority of our faculty right now are assistant professors, so institutionally, it is our goal to make sure that they succeed and that they get tenure. And our associate professors, they're gonna have the support so that they succeed and they get to full professor. And then the new hires that we are having this year are in public administration, are in chemistry, electrical engineering, psychology, and I'm missing one, sorry, and teacher education. So this is a big investment, but I think it's gonna be for the good of this community because the growth that we have, and very important, the name that San Diego State and the importance that San Diego State has in Imperial County in the community, it's something that is sending us a very positive signal that investing in this community is something that is gonna render benefits in the long term. And one thing that I just want to mention, I wanted to share a picture with you, but we don't have it yet, is we started clearing the land to build the new dorms. The new dorms are gonna be ready in mid-2026, and we'll be able to have 80 students on site living in our Calexico campus. So that's also a great opportunity to reach out to students who, for example, live in the northern part of the county and who have challenges with transportation, and we don't want that to be an impediment to get their higher education. So that's what I have to report. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for those incredibly intense updates, really. You have a heck of a lot going on here on the campus, and we're so proud and happy that you're a part of this.
Thank you. Very excited, and we look forward to collaborate with the Senate in what's coming.
Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd. And I'll begin with the enrollment management report and then provide some information about the current status of our tenure track hiring, and then yield the remainder of my time to Vice President Frazee for some updates from the IT division. So looking forward for our enrollment management, our numbers looking forward, I think if you go to the next slide, Mario, then
Actually, ask Secretary Fuller to pull the ballot that's the poll.
I think it's just on our,
Is it just ours?
because it's not here.
I don't have the poll up.
Weird.
You will have to click out of the window.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
oh no, thank you. So our campus, we exceeded our spring FTS target this year by 2.5%. We can see across the colleges that every college was above where they were in spring 24 at the time of census. Next slide. When we look at our annualized FTS that were projected, we are at 105.2% of what the CSU target was provided. We're talking about annualized targets, looking at a summary of our summer, fall, and spring FTS divided in half. As a reminder, for this, we had our internal targets and then the actuals that were provided. The CSU target was the first number that we were asked to achieve. And then when we were provided in July, an additional 1075 FTS target to reach. So we've met that. Currently, we still have a strong applicant pool with our current group of students. We're looking at likely to hit over 122,000 when we consider that there are still graduate applications and global campus applications to come in. The next slide. It's a strong class. We'll continue to see a strong GPA and finally have hit all of the states that are across the country. Those of you who've been watching, Stefan has been holding out to get an applicant from West Virginia. The numbers that you'll see here last year, in order to meet our targets, we admitted over 32,000 students. So we'll see additional students admitted in order to hit the yield rate of the number of students that we were looking for. As of March 1st, this is the percentage of where the students are allocated in the various colleges that have been offered admission. Most offers of admissions are going to still continue to come out this month. These targets were done in consultation with the dean's offices and department chairs and school directors to help reach our current targets that are still continuing to be discussed with the chancellor's office. Admissions, there's still an opportunity for us to secure some of the top candidates. So those of you who want to participate on our large recruitment day and admitted day, looking forward to hosting that on Saturday, April 12th, and all programs that are already currently provided programming for that. I want to say thank you for that. And I can take questions now, but I also could go on to the next part of my report and then take the questions in totality.
Yeah, I think it'd be better to go ahead and complete the rest of your report and ask questions.
As a reminder, this year we have 54 tenure track searches that we're searching for at this point in time. 15 have resulted in successful signed letters that have been received. There are 2 offer letters that are currently out. 6 approval to negotiate forms, so then we're getting to that negotiation stage with the deans, and 30 that are in other different stages. At this time, we have 1 search that was deferred until next year from the DPT program. And that concludes the 2 agenda items that I was asked to present on base from Provost Tong, and I would like to yield the rest of my time to VP Frazee, but I would like to answer any questions first.
So the floor is open for questions. Senator Pappen, you recognize?
Yeah, and noting the female to male ratio, it seems kind of high. So is that, or maybe it's not, is that lining up well with the current population of students, that type of ratio?
At this point in time, when we have our current applications out to our strongest students, it tends to be at this percentage. And then as the number of admissions, so we still have a significant number of admits to go out. As those continue to go out, we expect that we'll be in alignment with what the national trend that's looking like at about 60-40.
And so 60-40 is roughly what the university sits at now?
That's roughly what we sit at now and roughly what the nationally college campuses are sitting at. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Henschel, you recognize?
Thank you, Chair Butler-Bird. Sonia, I'm wondering if you can put the table up that lists the enrollment targets for every college.
I think that Mario has access to that, and I think that was slide 1.
Okay, yeah, great, thanks. And I've seen this a few times. I'm a little mad at myself for not thinking to ask this question until now, but how are the targets for each college set?
Those are set before admissions begin. So again, the numbers that we're looking at here are looking at spring 2025, but those targets are set in consultation with the dean's office and then individual departments and chairs as the way within the shared governance process that the dean's offices use. So sometimes those are going to be in direct consultation. If there's going to be a significant change, other times then the dean's offices will say, no, we're in alignment.
Okay, so those are targets that are in large part at least set by the individual colleges and departments within them, not trying to keep certain ratios or something of one type of college
part
to
of this,
another.
the way that they get set, and the reality is that as part of that discussion is that there's a demand. So there have to be discussions about, some colleges could want to triple the number, but we don't have that number of students. The same thing happens at the individual department level. And so it's trying to hit where you have the yield rate. And luckily for us, AVP Hyman spends a lot of time looking at those over time and what the trends are. But yes, the individual targets, recognizing this is what you're kind of accustomed to in a yield rate. Let's get to a college target.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
And I should clarify, some of that is also space constraints, like in PSFA. We know we have art studios that can only take so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for agreeing to yield some of your time to VP and CIO James Frazee to provide a report about ChatGPT. You're recognized.
Thank you very much. And I just want to begin by saying, really appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation about generative AI in general and ChatGPT in particular. We need to have more conversations. So thanking you, all of the senators, and especially you, Nola, for inviting us today. And I know we've got some time with the Senate Executive Committee to dive into this more deeply. I want to go ahead and start by sharing a link with you all. This link's important because it has information I'll be referring to throughout the really short report I give you today. It has our survey instrument, our survey dashboard, a survey chatbot to get at all of that data, publications that we've been providing, as well as the micro-credential. So we're going to spend some time on that. That's by faculty, for faculty. And maybe just a quick show of hands, if you could let us know by a raise of your hand if you've self-enrolled and completed the micro-credential. All right. So not seeing all that many, just a really quick high-level overview of the micro-credential. So we've got a faculty and staff version. We've got a student version that we rolled out here as part of the first year experience in the fall. 5 modules, emphasizing the ethical and responsible use module in particular. That's where we talk about some of the environmental considerations as far as, for instance, when you might want to use a browser search versus using generative AI tools. In some cases, it's like driving a Formula One race car to the supermarket. You don't want to do that, right? So really important, and something that I would encourage folks to take a look at if you haven't already, and to encourage your students to take advantage of those. They end up with a digital badge that they can put in their LinkedIn profile, which can help differentiate them from other candidates when applying for jobs. So something I just wanted to acknowledge here. Just really quick high level in terms of the response rate to our AI survey. We rolled that out in 2023. We had an extraordinary 21% response rate. In 2023, the focus of that survey was exclusively on students. In 2024, we added a faculty and staff component. You see again, remarkable 26% response rate, and we've been using that data to help us make better decisions. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those. Specifically related to ChatGPT, we see a dramatic difference between 2023 and 2024 with a 37% increase. And that is just to say our students are already using ChatGPT. And while thousands of students, you'll see this in a moment, are paying the $20 per month for the plus version, even more SDSU students are using the free version and effectively paying with their privacy and intellectual property. Quick glimpse at the 2024 data for ChatGPT in particular. You can see, again, 82% of our students are using ChatGPT today, almost 3/4 of our staff, 80% of our faculty. So you can see that that is it's extraordinary already. ChatGPT by the numbers. So interestingly, and this is data from days after the chancellor made her announcement, working with OpenAI, we were able to determine who has a ChatGPT account that they established with their SDSU email. Don't ask me why you would do that. If you're going to set up a personal account, I encourage you to use your personal email, not your state of California email. But nevertheless, at this data point, 15,648 people decided they were going to set up their ChatGPT account with their SDSU email. This doesn't include all of the thousands of people who set up ChatGPT accounts with their personal emails. And you can see here, the vast majority of these people are using the free version of ChatGPT. And I would say those 15,173 people using the free version are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of this rollout. Just to give you an idea of how much people are paying at San Diego State today. This is, and by the way, I should go back to this slide really quick, because 1 week later, we ran these numbers again, and the number jumped to over 16,000. My hunch on that is that students heard about this CSU deal, and they raced out to get a ChatGPT account, not realizing what they were signing up for was the free version. So that number, this is already out of date, and it's, I can't even tell you what it is today, but I know it's well above 16,000 people who use their SDSU email to set up their account. So I'd like you to just sit with this slide for a second. These are the people who are paying. So this is based on the survey numbers, and our university-wide population includes both Imperial Valley and San Diego. So this would include personal emails, because these are the people who responded to the survey, which was 5.4% of the students responding, just to give you the student number here. So 5.4% of the students responding to the survey said they paid for ChatGPT. So we took 5.4% of the 39,000 plus student population to get the numbers below. And as you can see here, people are spending a lot of money today on ChatGPT. And I would say we believe about, call it, over 2,000 students are paying. I estimate that our Pell eligible students disproportionately lack access to the more robust paid version of ChatGPT. So as far as the consultation process, again, I think we're starting the conversation. I'm excited to be meeting with the SEC and talking more about this. These are the people that we were talking with in terms of the work that we've started this week. So grateful to the chair of the Senate Instructional and Information Technology Committee, our AI fellows. I saw both of them on the meeting today. Our AS folks that are, so one of our AI student fellows, I should back up, is a member of Associated Students, the representative from the College of Engineering. Those AI student fellows, as well as student assistants, who are going to be the ones who answer the phone calls when you call about your ChatGPT account. Those are the students that we've been talking with, as well as our ITS faculty fellows, the DJ Hopkins, and of course, our library faculty fellows who are part of that ITS faculty fellow group. So the rollout plan, I would say, is shaped collaboratively. And I want to talk a little bit about the timeline really quickly. So first of all, back on the 26th, we sent a targeted notification to 83 faculty and staff with existing paid ChatGPT plans. Again, these are the people who use their SDSU email. These are not the people who use their personal email. Those wouldn't show up on our radar. To outline the steps for transitioning and to avoid duplicate billing, basically so you could stop paying. That was the idea there. Then yesterday, we sent a campus-wide announcement that informed everybody about the rollout and advised them to be on the lookout for an invitation that will come tomorrow. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. And then on the 5th, again, that will be the day that everybody gets, faculty and staff, get access to ChatGPT. In terms of the student rollout, on the 5th, we sent a message, that will be tomorrow, to 374 students who have paid ChatGPT accounts. Again, these are the students who use their SDSU email to start paying for ChatGPT. And that is going to advise them to be aware of this and to know that their personal paid accounts will automatically be canceled once they join the university's workspace. And then on the 10th, there'll be a general student announcement sent to all SDSU students about the upcoming rollout, and that'll detail the timeline and advises students to expect to see a message on the 12th that will inform them of the availability of ChatGPT as a free resource to the entire student body. So just going on from there, and I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want you to know what it's going to look like when you get that message tomorrow. You're going to get an email that looks like this. This is not a bogus email. This is legitimate. This is how you would activate your ChatGPT Plus account, also known as ChatGPT ED. These are some of the features. I want to emphasize one in particular. Not only is this the dominant generative AI tool because it's arguably better, faster than other generative AI tools, but it's safer because this version has commercial data protection, which means none of your prompts, none of the outputs from your prompts will be saved or used to train the underlying model. The other thing I want to mention is the use of the mini model. What that means is that it's less computationally intensive to run. In other words, more environmentally friendly. So that is something, I don't want to get too into the weeds. There's also a desktop application for the Mac, and there's an iOS version, an Android version. And so just wanted to give you a high level overview of that. And I believe my Chief Technology Officer is on the call here too, so he can answer more detailed questions if those come up after. I do want to point out here what we're doing to help you. And we've made the information about ChatGPT very accessible and easy to find. We've got one page, and I'll share that link here in a moment, that has all of the generative AI tools. And we're trying to take a very agnostic approach to generative AI here and not put all of our eggs into one basket. So you'll see on that AI services page a list of other tools that are a resource to you, including FAQs, how-to videos, and links that can help you. And I want to also mention We've got a workshop. We've been doing workshops for colleges, departments, and schools. We may have been to your department already. Just since January, we've done a number of these. If you're interested in having us come to your department for a faculty meeting, we would love that. We would love to do a workshop with you and your faculty. And I also want to encourage participation in a workshop that we're doing as part of the 2025 Professional Development Conference on April 2nd at the Conrad Prebys Student Union. The other thing I want to mention is our ChatGPT office hours. So beginning tomorrow, once you get your ChatGPT account activated, you will be able to go to the virtual help desk to get help, not only technical help if you need it, but also instructional design help. So our instructional designers will be there. So I just want to end with this, which is the link to all of our AI tools, not just ChatGPT. There are a lot of great FAQs and resources to help you there, a little how-to video on how to set up your account and how to use that. And I just want to mention, because I know this is a question that's likely to be raised, why are you making this available now? Why is there not a longer runway between when we're rolling this out for faculty and when we're rolling it out for students? And the reason is that this approach is really meant to help maximize the investment. The money's been spent, and it's millions of dollars. We may not have been consulted as much as we would have liked, but the reality is the money's been spent, and each day we delay, the CSU continues to pay for licenses that are not being utilized. So this is a system-wide investment, and our goal is to ensure that every student benefits from the technology as soon as possible. And I think for our office here in the IT division, we have an obligation to be good stewards of those resources and to make sure that SDSU gets the full value of that investment. So this is really about equity and access. It's not just an abstract goal. It's really meant to shrink that divide between the students who have access to these powerful tools and the students who don't. And unfortunately, the students with financial means have the potential to advance faster than those without. So by expediting this rollout, we really are proactively, I would say, addressing the disparities in AI access. So if we truly believe in SDSU's commitment to equity and inclusion in everything we do and keeping students at our core, then delaying this launch would be contrary to our strategic values.
Okay, thank you, VP Frazee. We have about 5 minutes for questions, and I see that there is at least one hand up. So I'm going to go defer to them right now, and that's Senator Aros, you're recognized.
So thank you, Vice President Frazee. What, in your mind, is the meaning of an AI-powered university? Because it seems to me you're putting the tool ahead of the people. It's the people that make up the university. And so what are your thoughts on that point?
Yeah, I would totally disagree with that. I mean, we're talking about technology, but it's about people. And I think for our students, not having the ability to be competitive in the workplace is going to put them at a disadvantage. What we might call cheating, businesses call progress. And if our students are applying for jobs without having a foundational knowledge of what it means to use these tools responsibly, I think our students are going to be placed at a disadvantage. The reality is the students are using these tools today. And this next week is another opportunity to have really important conversations with those students about what you expect in terms of the use of these tools. So, you know, I'm not big on the AI empowered thing, but it is what it is. And I'm grateful that we have the potential to save our community a lot of money. Many students don't have the money to spend on this, and this levels the playing field.
Secretary Fuller, you're recognized.
I have one comment and one question. One is that as a writing instructor, I'm seeing younger students, even juniors at this point, come in with very poor writing skills, and writing skills are directly correlated to their critical thinking skills. And it's really worrisome for me to watch students rely on this tool without having to have developed any writing skills or ones that express their critical thinking well. I'm not really, I have concerns about that, but I'm not opposed, I just have concerns. My question is this, I haven't heard much talk about, I know that there's some protections offered with this sort of rollout of AI. What information are these programs collecting about students and faculty and staff when they're using these systems? Is the university collecting information on specific users' use, or collectively is disaggregated data being used to be used for any purpose that we don't already know about? Like, those are my questions. Like, how is there information that's gathered for the university to use in decision making, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ade, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Chair Butler-Bird, and thank you also, Vice President Frazee, for joining us here today. My question is actually a bit off topic from ChatGPT. I would like to ask you if you could provide us with a bit more insight to the campus-wide shift from landline phones to Zoom phones. Also, I've heard concerns from faculty in the sciences and biology specifically that if the phones are used in a lab or switched to Zoom phones, that depends on the internet, and unreliable connectivity could cause safety concerns in those labs. So can you speak on that for us a bit?
Sure. Yeah, this is meant to be a unified communications as a service platform, essentially to bring costs down for the university. As you know, we're facing a very dire structural deficit. This is a way for us to actually save money on our voice telephony. I don't know how many people here have a landline telephone at home. I won't ask people to raise their hands, but times are changing. This is a more robust and more affordable solution. We do have technology in place that guarantees for those life safety situations, there is failover. Duress phones, blue light phones, the phones that you would see in an elevator, et cetera, those are all secure even if the network were to go down. There is a lot of capacity that moving to voice over IP or the internet protocol brings, as far as people being able to make a work phone call with my 594 number from my cell phone. So if I'm calling a vendor, let's say, it shows up that I'm calling from my office number. I can route calls to my cell phone. And we have people who are in the field who are doing a lot of that kind of thing in terms of being more responsive to be able to answer a call to their office that they wouldn't have been able to answer off otherwise. And in terms of this tool right here that you're using, we brought the cost for this down, the virtual meeting, by going ahead with that Zoom phone. We are actually behind relative to peer institutions who've already gone this direction, several other CSUs, both institutions in town here with UCSD and USD. And this is a way for us to really get our arms around the cost. So this is about a cost-saving approach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Sharma, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have first thing, I'm liking this AI ChatGPT. After I got email, I became member. It has tons of potential. So I'm sure in future it will be much more useful tool. My question is about where the money came from, that $500,000 you showed in your slide for this, paying for this, ChatGPT. Is it coming from the university budget? Then how?
It's coming out of people's pockets, Satish. Those are people that are paying with their own money for ChatGPT today. It's not, the university didn't spend a dime on any of that.
So we are not spending any dollar, we are getting the benefit of ChatGPT. That's very good news.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed. That's why I don't want to delay in making it available. And there's been suggestions that we wait until this summer. I think that is a mistake.
Okay, we have 1 minute. Senator Schellenberg, you've asked several questions during this meeting. I noticed that Senator Adderton had his hand raised. Did you mind if I defer to him first?
I will always defer to Senator Atherton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, James. I have a question. Is it possible to incorporate a chat GPT or AI checker into Canvas in the same way that we have Tutording.com also incorporated into the Canvas environment? Because I know there's the problem possibility of false positives, but of course, that becomes rather, I think, implausible at a certain point when you've got an essay that has been, checked by a GPT checker and shown to be 100% certainty that it was written by AI. I think I personally would find that very helpful in my own teaching if that could be incorporated into Canvas. Is that possible, James?
It's possible. The technology is still relatively immature and can be hacked. So there's actually a tool called Operator, which allows you to, in a Google Doc, at the pace of a human being, write a document and go back and delete things and change things around. Basically, it's AI pretending to be a human being using Google's Operator tool. So there are always going to be ways for people to hack those detection systems. The only true way is to have, a traditional proctored face-to-face setting. If you have a high stakes exam or some other assessment, you're going to need to do it in that manner, because otherwise people are going to be able to use generative AI tools.
How does that work when you're teaching online?
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, it's going to involve, changes in the instructional design, the assessment and deliverables. Students are doing a presentation back to the class, perhaps. That's one way. There's a variety of ways. I put a link in from Nature on some interesting instructional use cases for students. We will be doing more workshops. In fact, I am lobbying the Chancellor's office to provide funding to faculty for providing examples of how they could use generative AI as part of their assessment strategies. And I would like to see us begin to provide a series of 3 to 5 minute videos where faculty can share their stories of the problem that they were trying to solve, what they did, any collateral that they might be willing to share, and to recognize faculty and really celebrate them for the ways that they're working in this new paradigm. I've been at this for 25 plus years. I've seen a lot of revolutionary technology, the World Wide Web, the iPhone, nothing that has had the velocity of this. It's really a profound moment for us, and I'd say a seismic event that we're going to have to react and adapt to. There is a powerful tool here.
I'm sorry, I know you shared a lot, and I know you have a lot more to share. We are going to have to end because we do have other time certain, but we will be inviting you back to our next SEC and Senate meeting, so there will be more time to answer a lot more questions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We will now move to our time certain with about the Cozen O'Connor and Title IX updates. Director Mendez, you're recognized.
Hi, thank you. Hello, everybody. I was invited to speak to just give you a very brief update on Title IX and Cozen O'Connor. So just to orient you all, as you remember, I spoke with you a couple years ago now, believe it or not, when Cozen O'Connor was on our campus to do a program assessment of our Title IX, which resulted in campus-specific recommendations. They did this CSU-wide, and each campus got campus-specific recommendations, over 160 recommendations, and they had estimated that it would take approximately 3 to 5 years to implement those recommendations, and we formulated an implementation team to help guide those efforts. And it's been a few years, and so I just wanted to provide an update for you on how that's going. I had provided it for SEC, and Nola sits on the implementation team. So she had thought that this would be a good time for you all to hear where we are with that. I'm pleased to say that we've made a lot of progress. So I would say we're approximately 75% complete with the recommendations. And a lot of the recommendations that we are complete with are the more substantial ones. And the ones that are remaining rely on collaboration with the system. To remind you how COSN went about the recommendations is they broke it up into categories. There were 4 categories of concentration. The first one being infrastructure and resources, and that's really where the implementation team decided to place the highest priority. And so we really, at the beginning of these efforts, focused on resources, and with the support of campus leadership, we are fully staffed for the first time. Our staffing has tripled. So we have a much larger team. So we have welcomed many new positions to our staff. So we haven't just expanded positions, we have more investigators, we have more advocates, but we've also created new positions that did not exist before. So we have designated staff that primarily serve in both record keeping roles and support functions, so that the student or staff or employee experience, if they utilize our office, that they have more high touch support and staff designated to make sure that they are receiving those services. So I'm very happy that we got that done when we did, before the budget became what it did. So that was, so we basically are fully staffed and have increased resources. The next area of recommendations was around internal protocols. I think the highlight of the improvements we've made there is we've formulated 2 different multidisciplinary teams. One of the major critiques of COSN on how the work was being done previously was that Title IX tends to be very isolated from the campus community, and our work tends to be done since it's done with a lot of privacy and confidentiality and sort of in isolation, there's not always transparency or shared knowledge around the campus community. And so they had recommended that we form different multidisciplinary teams to more show our work and share our work. And so now we have 2 different multidisciplinary teams that help triage all incoming cases. We have one for incoming student cases and one for incoming staff and employee cases. Obviously, the membership goes through the requisite training to handle highly confidential information, and we take privacy concerns into consideration. But we have these teams to help triage, to make sure that we're having a holistic approach, and to make sure that we had increased fluency between different departments that touch these areas. So that's been a really fantastic improvement in how we do our work internally. The next area was around better communication. One of the big projects there was a new website that should be launching in 2 weeks. So a complete overhaul of our website, which it's still up. So if you want to see a before and after, you have 2 weeks to look at the before so you can be impressed by the after. The before is quite bad. It's got a lot of good content, but the problem is it's got way too much content. It's just been added to over the years, and added to and added to and added to and added to. And so it's very challenging to find what you're looking for. And so we've been working very hard on a complete overhaul of that, but making videos, making it more user-friendly for today's student, a completely different interface, new reporting forms that should be more streamlined, quicker, easier. So that should launch soon. The next big area is we have around prevention and education. We have a new prevention education oversight committee. Again, it's got about 20 members from across the campus, students, faculty, staff, that are going to steer our prevention and education efforts. We've always had really great P&E efforts, but it's sort of been decentralized and all over the place and sort of not tracked, not data driven. And so now we have a designated position. We have a prevention and education coordinator that's a full-time position just dedicated to tracking our prevention and education efforts and overseeing this committee to make sure that they're innovative, reaching all the pockets of our community. So that's really exciting. She just, that staff person just joined us about a month ago. So that's very new, but we're very excited about that. And then the last area was other conduct of concern, which I know you all have heard about. But that's sort of been taken away from me. So that was the other major area of recommendations. But as you know, the CSU did issue a guiding policy on how to deal with other conduct of concern that you all should have gotten recently. And it's not being sort of, a lot of the triage will still happen through my office because inevitably those type of concerns are brought to my attention because there's often overlap with discrimination and harassment, but it's not being overseen by my office. So if you read that policy, you'll see that I'm not really contemplated in it. So that is a development, but that's a little bit about what we've been doing. So we're still working, we're still moving forward, but we've made really good progress. I'm very, very pleased to be fully staffed and having a much larger team. And the other just update you should be aware of is hot off the presses. Today, we got a new non-discrimination policy from the CSU that incorporates the latest federal regulations. As of this morning, I have not read it yet, so I just got it a few hours ago. It is just to give you a bird's eye view of it. It is, as you may be aware, depending how much you digest this stuff, Biden's regulations were vacated in their entirety prior to Trump being sworn into office. So that was not a result of the new administration. Prior to Trump coming into office, Biden's regulations were vacated by a federal judge. Once the Trump administration came into office, he indicated that he would be reissuing his 2020 guidance that he had issued during his first term. We did not, as a CSU, choose to just go back to our old policy that we had during that time period, because since then there's been many California state laws that we also need to incorporate that came down in 2023 and 2024. So it wasn't as simple of just saying, oh, we're going to go back to our old policy that was in place. So the new policy that was issued today incorporates those obligations we have under the federal framework, but also the state laws that have passed in the last 2 years. So that the link is live on updated on our very ugly webpage that you're going to look again at in 2 weeks and be so impressed by. But the link is live if you want to see the new policy. But yes, that came out this morning. And that is the updates I have for you for the Title IX world.
Thank you.
And I hear in the chat, who is considered responsible for OCC? It depends on who the harmed party, what they're situated. So no one person is responsible, but if the harmed party is, say, an employee, it's mainly seen through HR. If it's faculty, there's more of a role for deans and chairs and faculty affairs. There's not one point person like there is a Title IX coordinator who's like, I'm responsible for the administration of the non-discrimination policy, right? It doesn't have a point person like that, but it more just says like, it's a collective action, but that it's shared responsibility is what I would say is how the OCC policy reads, is very much shared responsibility, but more because there's not a discipline aspect to it, right? It's different types of interventions, non-discipline interventions. So it's more looked at through that sort of leadership model within the department or college.
Thank you, Director Mendez. I was just going to remind everybody, please don't put your questions into the chat. Please raise your hand so you can bring them to the floor. Although I think that question might have gone directly to you, Director Mendez.
Oh, sorry. Okay. If there's any questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, I know you guys have a very busy agenda.
You do. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care. All right, we will move on to our 4 o'clock time certain with disability services, an update report, and that will be presented by Chief Wellness and Compliance Officer Lizette Flores. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Butler-Byrd, senators and guests. Appreciate the invitation to come and speak with you a little bit, give you an overview of where we're at with student disability services right now. And just to provide some context for those of you that may be unfamiliar, the primary mission of student disability services is dedicated to empowering students with disabilities and to have appropriate access and support. And some of our key points are to promote self-advocacy, work with the campus community to increase disability awareness, which we do through our Disability Ally and our accommodation counselor presentations, which I'll get into a little more in a minute, and to provide academic support services and assistive technology. And services and accommodations, of course, are definitionally different types of services that are provided. I'm here in lieu of my director, Jonathan Ramirez, who is already out today, but he did help prepare this report, so I wanted to let you all know that. I'm going to initially go into what the distribution of disabilities looks like right now at San Diego State University, and I'll give you some context. In a minute, we'll see a chart, but I'll just make mention, approximately 10% of our overall general population is receiving disability services. And this is comparing to, we are below the national average, which is hovering around 19%. In the spring of 2025, we're going to be approaching 4,000 students registered with disability services. The distribution looks like, Mario, keep down. I want to go over the distribution. All right, thank you. So the distribution is broken down by visual acquired brain injury. I'm going to break down some of these acronyms so they're not so esoteric. Attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism spectrum, communication, deaf, hard of hearing, learning disabilities, other functional mobility, and psychological. And you can see a large preponderance of the population is falling under over a third of psychological disability. Accommodation services that are offered. We have, there's a list here, you can read it, but I'll just give a quick overview. Some services provided per se would be like cart services, which is a service, not an accommodation. Furniture, we're also working with students of other size. A lot of our furniture is placed within the classrooms based on a couple of things. And I know that there's people that can speak better to that here. Enrollment, how many students in a seat in a room. And then sometimes we have to modify that seating arrangement so that we can have accessible furniture placed in that room, because accessibility is part of what I work with. And another service, not necessarily a accommodation per se, is that furniture process. We also have accommodations through captioning, assistive or accessible technology, accommodations counseling, note-taking, etc. You can scroll down a little bit. Thank you, Mario. So there's been quite a shift here in our influx of student numbers. We've tried to increase accessibility to and decrease barriers to the application process. As you can see, in December 10th, 2024, we processed over 1,000 new student applications. This is a significant influx. We're seeing a large volume of students coming in. We've reduced the number of pages and the process. We've made it more fluid and more accessible to the actual application for disability services, which is probably one of the factors leading to an increase in our numbers, which you're going to see the difference over time in a moment. But another factor is probably post-COVID, and we've seen it specifically an increase in psychological disability. So between fall of 2019 and 2024, you can see this jump, right? And we're now in spring, which is not on here. We were first asked to present in December, but we just went through census internally, and we are now at about 3,900 or approaching 4,000 students. So from fall of 19, we were at about a 1779 and now approaching 4,000 students with verified disabilities. The Test Accommodation Center, Test Accommodation has, just to help you understand some of the structural changes that have occurred, the Test Accommodation Center is merged now with the Testing Center and is under a standalone director. And in the 23 to 24 academic year alone, the Test Accommodation Center, not the Testing Center, processed over 8,000 test accommodation requests. The Test Accommodation Center is also, just to give a perspective on the volume, just this last finals cycle, we had over 4,000 seating requests for test administration during the finals cycle, in which we were open consecutively 2 weekends and a full week administering exams. Tracking of student complaints. Students are encouraged to share any concerns or complaints. We do have on the website, we have a form for students if they want to dispute a decision, and we have an appeal process. And also we have the director, which we can help students resolve, and a lead accommodations counselor. Student disability services challenges. Some of it is the number of students. Obviously, we've increased. We just hired another counselor. I'm like with you, Gail. We're getting staffed up to support need. Our student to accommodation counselor ratio was above the CSU average, and we're starting to level that out now. So we're very happy about that. Even within that, though, I'm very proud of the accommodation counseling team. We were still working within a very acceptable timeframe for turnaround. It's very important that students are encouraged to apply for disability services as soon as they are offered the admissions for San Diego State University, because accommodations are not retroactive. So students need to apply and submit their appropriate documentation and have an intake so that they can be seen in a timely manner. We are also exploring working, if James is still on here, with him possibly this summer on some potential innovation technological solutions to increase accessibility. Currently, we have note takers in classrooms. There are some challenges with getting note taker volunteers. We're trying to work on some AI solutions. We also work with Glean and other softwares. This is just a notification to everybody in advance. This is one of the reasons why it was great that I could come here and speak to this. We are moving to leveraging a new technology for our student information system, because our students there's confidentiality around their registration with Student Disability Services. We maintain our own information system, and we are going to be moving from Clockwork to AIM, Accessible Information Management System, to reduce administrative barriers, to create some more efficient workflows and efficiency and effectiveness, as well as address some security issues. And we will be working on a very comprehensive communication plan with both internal and external users. And we will have a beta test period, and we will have training available for all of our external users, including students and faculty. And this will be rolling out with IT. We're going to beta test early summer, and we'll be rolling out over the summer. We will be operating within both systems simultaneously over the summer during the transition. So the next point is shared responsibility for academic accommodations. We look to faculty, staff, and many campus partners. We work with food services, we work with housing, we work with facilities, we work with multiple entities to ensure that our students receive appropriate accommodations, and so that they can thrive academically. We can continue. Mario? Oh, are we there? Okay. I did want to add some information. So in addition to the Student Disability Services offices, we do have 2 grants that we are really hoping don't disappear under the current administration that work with some of our most vulnerable student populations on campus. One is our Workability 4 grant, WAVE, which is career preparation and academic to career preparation for students with the Department of Rehabilitation. We're very proud of that. That's for students and alumni, the students who have disabilities. In addition to that, we have a TRIO grant, and the TRIO grant serves over 200 and currently serves over 225 of our most vulnerable students who are Pell Grant eligible and registered with disability services. And embedded in that grant, they're registered with Student Disability Services. We have tutoring, mentoring, we have cultural components to that, and the mentors work with a small cohort of students, they're peer mentors, and they also have some embedded advising in that program. We also have a Disability Ally program, and I see if you look at Amanda Fuller's, not to call her out, but I will, yay, background there, it's Disability Celebration Month. If you received an email from our Vice President at SACD earlier this month or right before March started, we have multiple activities that we have planned with the SDSU Disability Employment Resource Group, ERG, SACD, SDS, and internally our advocacy group, our Disability Ally, and we've planned multiple events. I'm going to put in the chat just a shout out because tomorrow is one of our first major events. It's our Disability Ally programming. And we have multiple events over the course of the month. We have movies. You can email either of these emails, and there'll be a myriad of opportunities available there for you to participate in. There's 5 or 6 that'll be happening over the course of the month. That's about all that I have.
Thank you.
And I see there's about 2 minutes for questions.
Yes, please, if you have questions, please raise your hand. Thank you, Senator Pappen, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would assume that you have students that you have many students possibly that have multiple disabilities. So in that case, how do you create this distribution, placing them into these specific silos?
If a student is registered for more than one disability, then that would be demonstrated in all those areas. So I could have multiple disabilities, you're correct. I could have a student that has mobility and psychological disability. So they would be represented in both. But our numbers, that's not the duplicated number of registered students, our overall numbers.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair Sherman, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
I'll do it even shorter. Noelle, thanks for all the awareness stuff that you guys are working on that's coming up. Just thank you so much for that critical work. My question is, I know we spoke sort of privately and you can't speak to specific cases, so I don't want to raise any examples, but I've had some trouble in the past getting accommodations for my students fulfilled, or at least getting clear communication back from SDS. And so my question is, I was just under the impression that maybe y'all didn't have enough resources and support. I know you now have a new director and it sounds like you've gotten some new hires. So my question is, do you guys have enough funding and resources and support? I know accommodations have grown a lot. Even I can feel it as a faculty member.
Yes, so part of, growth, right, is opportunity. And this working with new and innovative technologies allows us to create some efficiencies. So we can, even with the numbers of staff we had, be able to address some issues. But always though, when you have technologies, the concern is do people have significant and appropriate training to utilize those, right? Because you don't want to utilize a technology and increase a barrier. So, and then we are staffing up. And so that is also very helpful. Thank you, Savannah. And sometimes there's some confusion about what disability services can and cannot do or should not do, right? So our mission is to serve students. And so we're being very conscious to make sure that the funding resources are allocated appropriately for students and that we're serving faculty through those appropriate channels and students through our channels, right? So that's kind of helped us with having capacity. I think in the past, sometimes those lines have been blurred. And so that's helped us with increased capacity to make sure that we stay aligned with our mission of students. And
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to
sure.
Pause.
Sorry.
If you have any other information, if you could, put it in the chat because we have a 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. But thank you, Savannah, for being an advocate. We appreciate you. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody offline. And if you have any concerns, you can reach me directly. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, our final time certain today is another really important one, and that's a Young Men of Color project or initiative. Assistant Dean Preciado, you're recognized.
Thank you and good afternoon to all of you. I'm as I consider all of the information that Noel has shared with you, I think about the initiative underway to support young men of color, and we do not have an office or resources or activities in the same way that our students that have disabilities have in terms of support. And in fact, I think one of the most important things you should note is that about 2 years ago, we started a journey informed by data that demonstrated that our students, particularly our young men of color who commute from their homes, were performing at lower rates than their female counterparts or their women counterparts. And because of that, we decided with no funding, no energy other than trying to build another campus community of allyship to start a study group. This study group is comprised of administrators, staff, students, and faculty. And we've been in this journey for the last 2 years, hoping to support and improve student indicators for these young men of color. I shared in the chat a link to one of the outcomes of this journey. About a year ago, we got together in the Alumni Center ballroom. About 150 of us were able to share some time with each other, but most importantly, we were able to listen to actual students talk about their experience here on campus. And as a result of that conversation and some of the literature we were examining, we embrace a number of initiatives for 24-25. Again, these are no new funding, no new directorship, no new anything. The only thing that has been keeping this going is our shared responsibility to serve these students. And so to that end, I wanted to share with you that over 275 members of the campus community have volunteered to join this badge that we have, the Young Men of Color badge. Over 100 have completed it. It only takes about an hour. It introduces you to student voices. It introduces you to important economic profile of how students experience the city of San Diego or this metropolitan region. It also introduces you to some theory, and specifically we chose to focus on Laura Rendon's theory of validity or validating the student experience. And she's a remarkable scholar that has influenced hundreds of us who work in student services and student affairs. I would like to encourage you to share with your constituencies the opportunity to join in taking the badge. Again, it's only about an hour's length. You'll find that we will give you feedback as you go through it. We will share an allyship sticker that you can put in your office that we hope our student community is beginning to recognize as supportive spaces. And lastly, we are having another convening on March 19th. This will take place in the Tula Event Center on the east side of campus from 10 to 2 p.m. We're going to once again listen to student voice, listen to how our first year students are experiencing the university. We invited some transfer students as well. And what we hope to change and update is how these students are performing in terms of GPA, in terms of continuation rates, in terms of incidents of being placed on academic notice or being disqualified. And so to the extent possible, we're trying to meet the students where they are in their context and trying to support them to continue their success. Every single one of them is an exceptional student that was admitted to SDSU, and every single one of them, with our support, can succeed and graduate. At this time, that is the major my discussion, and happy to answer any questions or point you to any resources that you may have questions about.
Thank you. The floor is open for questions. Senator Pappen, you're recognized.
Yes, thanks, Jose, for the report. I was just curious, is Professor Frank Harris involved with this initiative at all?
Yes, in fact, as you might be familiar with his scholarship, he's one of the leading voices that addresses this, that examines masculinity and how students are challenged to be who they are and to be all they can be in the academic context. And yes, so Frank Harris and Marisa Vasquez as another leading scholar who's helping us understand this phenomena. And as the Vice Provost indicated, we have a 60-40 enrollment. And if you start looking at the subpopulations and socioeconomic indicators, we are trying to make sure we don't lose students for the various reasons that they're experiencing. There are a lot of pull factors pulling out our young men, all men, but our young men of color in particular, out of higher education.
Wonderful, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please raise your hand or comments.
Thank you so much, Chair.
And thank you. This is a really important project, and we're really excited and pleased that it's growing and getting good support on our campus.
I see that there's additional postings in the chat, and I would just point you to those. And I wish everyone a great afternoon.
Thank you. All right, so we have come to the end of our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Yes.
Ditto.
Motion second is here in person. So anyone dissent from adjourning, please raise your hand. Otherwise, see you next time, everybody, and take care.